Greetings adventurers, this is Lorne, your guild advisor, and for this video, I will be reviewing Danja ni Dai wo Motomero no wa Machigaru Daru ka Gaiden Sword of Oratoria Volume 10, or Danmachi Sword of Oratoria Volume 10. Now, originally this was supposed to release on October 22nd, but instead it got delayed 2 weeks and released on November 5th. So here we are today, reviewing the novel. Now, Sword of Oratoria Volume 10 actually covers the Loki Familia perspective of the main series novels, Volumes 9 through 11, also known as the Xenos arc. So if for some reason you haven't read the main series up to at least Volume 11, I highly suggest you do that. I don't know how you made it to Sword of Oratoria Volume 10 without reading all the main series first, but be warned, it really expects you to have knowledge of these novels because it refers to a lot of the events in Volume 10 and kind of skips around because it assumes you already know a lot of the things that happen throughout the Xenos arc. So I strongly recommend reading through the Xenos arc in the main series if for some reason you have not read those yet. But anyway, I'll be doing a general review of Volume 10 without any spoilers, and then the second half of the video, probably like second or the latter 3/4 of the video, will be a spoiler discussion on the stuff that happens in Volume 10. Now, without further ado, let's get started with the review. Sword of Oratoria Volume 10 is written by the author of the Danmachi series, Fujino Omori sensei, illustrated by Kiyotaka Haimura, with the original character designs being attributed to Suzuhito Yasuda, who is the main illustrator of the main series of the novels, and this novel in particular is translated by DeLucia, who also translated the previous novel, and of course, the light novel series is published by Yen Press in North America. Now, as I said before, Volume 10 covers a lot of the stuff that's in the Xenos arc in the main series and sheds a lot of light on the events that happen in that from the perspective of Loki Familia, with a particular focus on Finn, the captain of Loki Familia, and it's like we're getting like a deeper look into the characters of Loki Familia with all these volumes. Volume 6 in particular dealing with the Amazon twins, Volume 8 dealing with Bet, and then here in Volume 10 it's mainly a dive into Finn's character, which is very appreciated because it's cool to learn a lot more about one of the most powerful figures in Oratoria, the captain of Loki Familia, Finn. We get to see his aspirations, his goals, and we also get to see him develop as a result of a certain venturer, Belcrano. So it's really cool seeing that, and just seeing how smart Finn is, because throughout the Xenos arc in the main series, you can really tell that Finn has a pretty good grasp on the situation of the Xenos, and if they are intelligent, why Bel would protect these people. And not only that, Finn is not just dealing with the situation above Oratoria, but a situation below it as well. So it really just shows how much of a tactician Finn really is, and he's even able to turn a lot of the mistakes he makes here into strengths, which is really cool to see. It just makes you appreciate Finn as a character more, and then when you see him develop more as a result of other characters' actions, you appreciate him even more after that. And of course, it's not just Finn who shines in this novel. We get to see Lafia in particular get a lot of outstanding character moments. And normally I say that Lafia is somewhat of an annoying character when she's with Eyes, and she's best when she's with Philvis. But in this novel, she's not really with Philvis at all. But Lafia still manages to shine throughout this novel, which really impressed me because Lafia is a character that not a lot of people are too high on. But I do think Lafia proves herself here in this novel on how good of a character she can become. And I mentioned Finn, and I mentioned Lafia. Like, Omori sensei does a very good job making use of all of his characters and giving them important roles, and that's something I like to reinstate throughout all the main series, and you can really see it here in Volume 10. Like, there's a lot of characters involved in this story in Volume 10, and a lot of them have their shining moments, like Finn, Lafia, Anakitty, Aki. Like, she shines quite a bit in this as well. Like, she got a lot more attention than I think she ever would throughout the previous novel. So it's really cool to see Anakitty, of all people, get a big chance to shine in this novel. And of course, one of the main themes in this novel, along with the Xenos arc itself, is that conflict of the very existence of the Xenos. How will these people react to intelligent monsters? Monsters that can think, that can feel, that can protect each other. And in this novel, you get to really see how the individual members of Loki Familia feel about the Xenos and how their characters develop because of that. And of course, at the heart of this conflict is Eyes herself, the person that has a disdain, a certain hatred towards monsters. She's really challenged in this novel to really sort out her feelings and how she feels about the Xenos, because she can't keep running away from this. She has to face it head on, and she has to face Bell head on. And I think Omori sensei does a really good job of just illustrating how conflicted Aiz is about the situation, how it eats her up inside. Like, normally you think of Aiz as this stoic and non-emotive character, but throughout this entire Oratoria series, and with Volume 9, which explores her past, and then in this volume, which has her really come to terms with how she feels about the Xenos, like, she's very emotive. You get to see how much in conflict she is, how she wants to be on Bell's side, but she just can't because of her feelings toward monsters. So I think Omori sensei does a really good job illustrating just how conflicted Aiz is with the entire situation. And I mentioned how Omori sensei manages his characters. Like, there are other characters to talk about, like Gareth, Bet, Tiona, Riveria, and I'll talk about them later in the spoiler section of the review, but of course he does a really good job managing his cast of characters and also building up the conflict underneath Oratoria and just continuing that storyline of the evils of Gnosis and how Loki Familia is dealing with that while also dealing with the Xenos. And I think we're going to see a really cool thing in the next volume, in Volume 11, and how it progresses from that point. As I said before, Volume 10 gives a deeper insight into the situation of the Xenos arc in the main series. It really gives a lot of shine to Finn in particular, Anakitty, who is usually thought of as a minor character, but shines a lot in this, and Lafia has her stand-up moments as well. Omori just proves how good he is at expanding his characters and developing them, and then also progressing the plot in this novel. And this book is just kind of hard to put down, because even though you know a lot of the events that are going to happen throughout the volume, there are other things in there, like things you don't know, things you want to know of how Loki Familia members react to things, and how it progresses down in Gnosis, because there's a lot of very interesting things happening down there as well, and a lot of characters getting stand-up moments down there. So all in all, it's a very enjoyable novel, probably one of my top 3 novels of Oratoria, so it's obviously a very enjoyable read, and I can't wait to read Volume 11 when it releases in February, hopefully, if we're not getting any delays. But anyway, guys, that's it for the non-spoiler part of the review, so if you haven't read the book yet for some reason, get right to it, but now we'll be diving in to the spoiler part of the review. So in the spoiler part of the review, I just want to talk about a few of the stand-up moments that I enjoyed, particularly around Finn and just a lot of the individual characters in this story. And first of all, we get a lot of background into a lot of situations in the main series that was teased about, but we didn't really know exactly how those things came to be. Like, for example, the secret passage that Hermes claims in the main series, like how did you even get this? Because Loki Familia is guarding all the 4 entrances to Gnosis that are known. And of course, we get to see here that Hermes arranges to give away his dataless key to crews in exchange for them to just leave that particular part of Gnosis, so the Xenos have a way to get back into the dungeon. Something I didn't really think about was the magic weapon that Asterios had, and that was actually of Tsubaki's making, which is really interesting to see. And that was originally part of a request that Hashina, the guy that died, the guy from Ganesha Familia that died in Volume 2 of Oratoria. So we're reaching all the way back to Volume 2 of Oratoria, and it comes back in the main series and here in Volume 10. So Omori just planting the seed very early and then bringing it back up here in Volume 10. It just shows how much Omori has put attention to detail in the series itself. Just how much he's planning for the series, because I know he mentioned after Volume 14 in an interview that the Danmachi story is only halfway done, so we are in for quite a treat, and just seeing all these things planted throughout the series come to fruition, like in this case, makes Danmachi so rewarding to read, and it's just something that's not really seen too well in the anime because they kind of skip on the foreshadowing. That's one of my favorite things in Danmachi. And without previous Oratoria installments focused on individual characters of the Familia, Volume 6 with the Amazon twins, Volume 8 with Bet, Volume 9 with Aiz, and then here in Volume 10 we focus more on Finn, and we get quite a lot of it. Like I mentioned in the non-spoiler part of the review, like you get to see he's very intelligent. He's like planning steps ahead, many steps ahead, and even if he makes a mistake, like he did, like forgetting about Lily and what she's capable of, like her disguising herself as Finn, tricking Raoul to move his troops somewhere else, and then Finn using that mistake and being like, I can use Lily to trick the evils. And that's just a really cool, like, that was one of the moments in the novel I was like, wow, really? That really just happened? And that's, of course, when Anakiri gets some time to shine, because Anakiri's the one that finds Lily. And Anakiri kind of scared me in this novel, because after she finds Lily, they orchestrate that plan to go ahead and lure the evils somewhere. And then Anakiri just takes out 3 of the 5 evils instantly. And then she tortures them to get the key. I'm like, wow, dang, like she stabbed, before the guy could commit suicide, she stabbed him through the hand so he couldn't do it. And then she goes and tortures him, like dang. That's one level 4 adventure you don't want to mess with, because normally, like, you kind of take it for granted that Loki Familia has all these level 4 adventures, because what you mainly see is the level 6s, like Finn, Riveria, Gareth, Ice, Tione, Bet. Like, you focus on those high level people, level 6, but you can't forget the level 4s in there, like Anakiri. And it just goes to show how powerful of a familia the Loki Familia is. And going back to Finn, you really see himself like struggle and come to terms with the fact that he's what he calls a man-made hero. Like, he made sure that his title would be braver, and he would have to live up to that, and just plan accordingly to live up to its name. Whereas Bell, as he compares himself to, Bell doesn't like plan anything like, I will do this, and then I'll increase in fame. Bell just faces on any situation that's handed in front of him with his innocence. And that's something that Finn realizes he doesn't have, because all these things that he's done so far are like within his calculations. And then when he sees Bell, like that defining moment here in the novel when Finn observes Bell and he's watching him take on Gross, and he's like, and he can see that Hermes orchestrated this entire event. Like, he can tell that this is unnatural. This shouldn't be part of what the Xenos are trying to do when they were trying to get back into the dungeon. Like, why are they out here? Why are they attacking people in the northern part of the entire Daedalus Quarter? And what's happening is that he can tell that the entire event is staged, and he thinks that it's going all according to Hermes' divine will. Like, this is the stage that Hermes set out for Bell, and then Bell only has 2 choices. And then he does that thing, and it's that super awesome moment in Volume 11 where Bell puts his trust in the monster. He puts his trust in Gross to stop his attack. And right then and there, like Finn, it's even described like Finn sees a radiance. It's almost blinding. Like, Finn sees that Bell is defying the divine will. He's forging his own path, and that's something I mentioned in Volume 11. I think that was my first review. Like, Bell rejecting the path that God set before him and setting upon his own. And like, Finn sees, like, that's the type of hero that I should have aspired to be. And that's when he changes his mindset. Like, I don't want to just be braver. I want to be the type of hero that can defy the will of the gods and set forth my own path. Like, and even when he goes down into Gnosis, because Otaro and the rest of Freya Familia is not going to let him interfere with Bell's fight against Asterios. Like, there's no point in staying over here. I'm going back to Gnosis. I'm going to help Riveria. And there, when he makes that deal with the Xenos, like, even if this were to get out, even if it's to get out that I am working with these monsters, I'll still try to work my way back up, just like Bell did. And it's just a beautiful moment. Like, you see Finn, who is this calculating character, and he's trying to get out of his comfort zone. He's trying to say, I want to be a hero like Bell. Like, our main character, our main boy, Bell Crandall, is the one that changes Finn, and it's really cool to see that. And let's start talking about a character I didn't think would impress me so much in this volume, and that's Lafia. And like I said before, like, she's somewhat of an annoying character, especially in the earlier volumes in Oratoria when she's just fawning over Eyes, but she grows apart from that. Especially when she's with Philbus, like, I always say, like, whenever Lafia is with Philbus, we get to see, like, pretty much the best of her character. And that's one of her motivating factors. Like, she's training really hard because she wants Eyes to acknowledge her. She thinks that Bell is her rival, so she tries really hard to become stronger. And then you see here in Volume 10 that she does respect Bell in a way. She does believe Bell in a way. Like, this is not something that Bell would normally do. Like, even though her with the rest of Loki Familia see that Bell is defending Wine, the Xenos girl, from everyone in Oratoria, like, she knows that he has to have a good reason for this, and she actually chases after him, demanding an answer. And of course, Bell just keeps running away, And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Omori Sensei didn't exactly plan all the way for what happens in the Zenos arc, because like I say a lot, that Lafia isn't really mentioned by name in the main series as of yet, as far as I know. So it's really like Omori like writes himself in the corner, because he can't do too many things in Sword Art Oratoria to change what he wrote in the main series. So he needs to be very careful in how he has Bell interact with other people, so it doesn't like retcon stuff from the main series. So, but Lafia really impressed him. Like, she doesn't just get mad at Bell. Like, she's trying to find answers. Like, she's trying to figure out why Bell is doing this. She even goes up to the Hestia Familia mansion when Loki Familia is supposed to be spying on them. Like, knocks on the door, sees Haruhime, and she's like, I need to see Bell. And of course, she doesn't really get to do that, and Loki Familia has to tear her away from the Familia and get her to leave, and I found that pretty hilarious. And then later on, when Bell is fighting Asterios, and then Lafia is like watching that, like people like always talk about that moment when Bell fights the Minotaur in Volume 3 of the main series, and Lafia wasn't there to see that, like, and everyone that was there that witnessed that was inspired by Bell's fight, his adventure. And for the first time, Lafia is watching Bell have an adventure of his own, and she gets inspired. She even cheers Bell on, saying "win," or sorry, "don't lose." And that was just a really cool moment to see, because you really just can see that Lafia is developing as a character herself. Like, she understands how Bell is and how he wouldn't do stuff without a good reason for it. And you see right here that Lafia's belief in Bell pays off, and he's fighting against Asterios in one of the coolest fights in Danmachi. It's really hard because the Asterios fight is really hype, and then the Juggernaut fight in Volume 13. Like, oh. Anyway, Omori's fights always excellent, and Lafia doing a really good job with the character here. And that's not to mention the Fairy Force. That's a really funny name. Thank you, Loki, for that. But the elite squad of concurrent casting elves going through Gnosis with Lafia as the lance, as they say. And of course, Lafia as a Thousand Elf is a very useful character because she's able to copy elven magic, and she's integral to that attack force. And with Reveria, they're able to take off one of Ravis's arms. And that's a really cool moment, because you think Ravis is this character that's like almost unstoppable. Like, Eyes has trouble with Ravis. It's like, how is Reveria, a mage, gonna deal with that? Because the mage has to cast, while Ravis could be just going up there. But Reveria is ready. She has her whole fairy squad with her fairy force, and they freeze part of Ravis's arm off, and she just has to like let go of it and then recuperate from there. And it's just really cool to see. And then Reveria, of course, we can talk about her, how like she does have the tact, she does have the strength to face off against Ravis, just with proper planning, proper tactics. And then she's even able to hold herself in a battle of wits against Fells, because Fells was doing a really good job convincing Loki Familia, like, these Xenos are like people. And then Rivera's like, well, prove it with logic. And she's channeling her inner Finn during that moment, like, and even Fells says, Reveria, Finn, braver, during that moment. So that was really cool to see. And then seeing Gareth and then Reveria and Finn all fight together against Ravis was a really awesome moment as well. And of course, like I said, Lafia continuing to impress, channeling Riveria's own magic to make an escape away from Ravis. And they escape with the Xenos, and Ray, the Siren, defended Alicia earlier. And that was one of the things that convinced those particular people in Loki Familia, like, maybe the Xenos aren't really that bad. And then, of course, that's when Finn makes that deal with them, like, you will help us in our raid against Gnosis. And that brings a lot of light to the stuff that's going to happen probably in Oratoria Volume 11, because we know from main series Volume 13 that they're currently doing a raid in Gnosis, because that's when Ryu like runs away after Jura, as Hermes Familia is doing the cleanup from the Loki Familia's advanced group. And we know now the Loki Familia's advanced group probably is working with the Xenos. So we know quite a bit of things that are happening in the background as main series Volume 13 and Volume 14 are going on, because we know from Volume 13 that Lily requested help from Hestia, And it's like, where is that help even going to come from? Because Loki Familia, Hermes Familia, the Xenos, all those people that are kind of tied with Hestia Familia in some kind of way are all tied up doing the raid against Knossos. And that's probably going to happen in more detail in Oratoria Volume 11. But it's like, where's that help coming from? And I keep talking about Volume 14 when I should be talking about Volume 10 here in Oratoria. But it does give information about stuff that could come up in the later half of this arc happening with main series volumes 12 through 14. 14 can't come out soon enough. The Empress can't just keep delaying it, so we can't read it, guys. And I'll briefly touch on Tiona and Bet. Like Tiona here, I think we saw it in the main series how Tiona was reluctant to attack the monsters after seeing Wine protect that orphan from the collapsed building, and we get to see that in more detail here in this novel. And you can see from the very start, when they started fighting against the Xenos, that Tiona wasn't feeling that great about it because she saw that these monsters were different, that they were protecting each other, and she was just uncomfortable. And then you see at the very end, like, I can't fight these. And then even Bet, like, even though he's being quite cruel, and then, like, it was really hard reading that Bet was, like, crushing the stomach of Rey during Volume 11, and you get to see it reinstated here in Volume 10, but, like, even then, Bet is, like, pissed because he can actually see that these monsters are protecting each other, and he's reminded of his entire family being destroyed by monsters, but he's also reminded of how these monsters are protecting each other like a family, and that just pisses him off because, like, man, this really pisses me off. Smash. And then later on, you see Bet deal with Haruhime. Like, that was a very standout scene in Volume 11 when you get to see Haruhime stand up for herself, stand up for Belle, and Bet is like taken aback, like, you really are standing up to me, like, are you sure you want to do this? And then he sees the, like, no hesitation in Haruhime's eyes, and he's impressed by that. So that was a really cool scene to see from the other side. Like, he remembers Haruhime from Volume 6 of Sword of Oratoria, and it's just really cool to see him acknowledge her as, like, an actual adventurer. And of course, we can't talk about Volume 10 without talking about Eyes. I wanted to save it for last, but she goes through quite a lot in this novel. Like, at the very beginning, you see that Belle is down in the dumps because it's just right after Belle escorted Wine back into the dungeon, and he's feeling really down about it. And then Eyes is, like, asking him, what's wrong, Belle? And she asked her a very weird question to her, like, what would you do if, like, monsters had feelings, they have emotions? And Eyes, like, struggles with that answer, but she's reinstates, like, if a monster were to make a person cry, I would kill them. And when she's finally faced with the Xeno, she doesn't know what to do. Like, she's super conflicted because she really is interested in Belle. Like, Belle is a friend of her, and she wants to be on his side. But when she sees him protecting a monster, and the monsters are things that Eyes is taught to hate because monsters killed Eyes' family, as far as we know. And you just can't help but think it has a lot to do with the Black Dragon, because there's a lot of black imagery when it comes to Eyes' flashbacks and her hatred. Like, you get that imagery of the Black Flame, and that was reinstated a lot in the previous volume, Volume 9, like the Black Flame. Like, you can't help but think Black Dragon, like, what's going on here? But again, Eyes has to come to terms, like, with her feelings on the Xenos, because she tries to run away from this. Like, she sees Belle defend Wine, and then like, they fight against all the Xenos, and when she finally sees, like, the Black Minotaur, Asterios, who just attacks things because he wants a good fight, like, finally something I can fight, something I know what to deal with. And she just lops off one of his arms just like that. And she's just continuing to run away from the problem, like how she feels about the situation with Belle and the Xenos. And then there is that moment in Volume 11 that I really wanted to see expanded, and that was when Ryu gets in the way of Eyes so Belle can get away. And we didn't really get to see too much of that in Volume 11, and we finally get the expansion of that encounter here in Volume 10. And it's really exciting. Like, it only lasts 3 minutes, and that's pretty realistic because Ryu's way of fighting is to sprint very fast and attack relentlessly, because that's part of her skill. Like, the faster she is, the stronger her strikes are, and she can't, like, let up her attacks because Eyes is stronger than her. Eyes is level 6, and Ryu is level boosted to level 5 pretty much. But Ryu's only chance of delaying Eyes is to just relentlessly attack like she is, And unfortunately, she does lose, but Aiz is like impressed by Ryu and acknowledges her skill. And the sad thing is that, like I've said this before, Ryu is obviously my favorite character, and Ryu would have, this would be a much more interesting fight if Ryu was actually able to level up, because she clearly has the stats to level up to 5. It's just a question whether or not she has that heroic feat that's acknowledged by the gods, and she probably does with all that's happened within these past 5 years of her not upgrading her status. And it's just crazy to think that Ryu could be level 5 at this moment, and with the level boost she'd be level 6, and that would actually be a challenge for Aiz. That's just a much more interesting encounter, people of equal strength pretty much. And the one thing that gave me like, wait, what, was when it said Aiz has fought Gale before. I'm like, wait, when did this happen? Was this mentioned in the main series? Like, I kind of want to look through all the entire novels. Like, no, I don't think so. I don't think they fought before in the main series itself, and this happened in the past. And now you're just making me ask more questions about when this encounter would have happened, when Ryu fought against Aiz before. Like, when did this happen, Omori? Why are you planting more things that I want to know about? But the novel does end with that moment between Aiz and Belle as they're fighting, as Belle is protecting Rine. And it's kind of a weird thing to do because the events are kind of happening out of order. But if you read volumes 9 through 11 of the main series, it's pretty easy to understand when these events are happening. And I think it's very appropriate that Omori Sensei ends the novel on this point of this character-defining moment for Aiz, as she struggles and finally meets her conflict, her inner conflict with the Xenos head on. And it's really interesting to see like all these thoughts that happen in Aiz's head. Like, as she's fighting Belle, she's actually like, she's losing terms with herself. Like, she's actually struggling, even though Belle's level 3 and she's level 6. And Belle's like countering all these moves. Like, Belle's using all these moves that Aiz taught him against her. And Aiz is obviously not in the best state of mind to deal with Belle. Like, if she was, if her mind is clear, this would be no problem. But she's fighting a fight she does not want to fight, and she's just conflicted the entire time. And she has this imagery of her younger self, like the innocent Aiz, like sympathizing with Rine and holding onto her, like hugging onto her. And you see this imagery of black flames, this hatred towards monsters, and she's like struggling between those two sides of her. And at the very end, like when you, that really hard to like read scene when Rine's like taking off her claws, taking off her wings to show that she doesn't mean any harm, like she just wants to protect Belle. And Aiz like finally has to come to terms with the fact that maybe there are good monsters, and that's just, that completely like attacks her character, her beliefs, because previously she made a promise to herself that she would kill monsters, and here she puts down her sword. And that's just a really important moment of Aiz's character changing, and it'll be really interesting to see how she moves on from this point in volume 11. And even Bet here, like he's in the main series scene as well, but you get to see it here again, and how Bet was watching the entire thing unfold. So Bet watched that entire encounter between Belle, Rine, and Aiz. So I'm very curious to see on how he feels about all of this. So a lot of things we still want to know about, and will probably be addressed in volume 11 of Sword of Oratoria, and that just can't come out soon enough. And Sword of Oratoria volume 11, if it releases on time, unlike volume 14 of the main series, will release on February 18th. So look forward to that if we do indeed get it that day, Yen Press. But anyway, I'm very excited to see what you guys think about this novel. As I said earlier, it's probably in my top 3 novels of Sword of Oratoria. Them being, I can't really put them in an order right now. There's probably a lot of bias towards my feelings on this novel right now, but my top 3 of Sword of Oratoria so far are this volume, volume 10, volume 8, and volume 6. As you can tell, I really enjoy the novels that expand upon the characters in Sword of Oratoria, the Amazon twins, Bet, and now Finn. So those are my top 3. Like, what are your favorite novels, installments in Sword of Oratoria so far? What are your favorite character moments, stand-up moments that happen in this volume? Where do you think this is going to go on from here? Like, we know that there's going to be a raid against Gnosis, and that's alluded to in volume 13 of the main series, with Loki Familia cooperating with the Xenos, and also Hermes Familia, and Philbus will probably be involved as well, because she's part of that alliance between Hermes, Dionysus, and Loki. So we're probably going to learn a lot more about that. And also, get an expansion on how these characters advance with their thoughts on the Xenos. Like, how does Loki Familia evolve from all of this? Anyway, guys, that wraps up my review of Sword of Oratoria Volume 10. Can't wait for Volume 11. If you guys enjoyed this video, want to see more Danmachi content, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, follow me on Twitter, and join my Discord. And as always, continue enjoying your time adventuring in Oratoria and the dungeon. This is Lauren, your guild advisor, signing out.